go. All right. All right. Welcome to Engineer a Career. Well, it's actually Engineer an Audio Career. Great way to start, guys. Um, so, my name is Jeet. For all of you who don't know me, my name is Jeet Suresh Paul. I am an audio engineer at the Criterion Collection. I also work at SAE as an adjunct instructor. I also work at Heritage Radio Network as a sound engineer, doing various podcasts, editing, mixing, and I wanted to do this whole mini series of webinars or podcasts or whatever you want to call them, but I wanted to do them because I started sound engineering or even playing with the idea of sound when I was like 16 or 15 years old, and that was in like 2008, 2007 or something. And I want to say that it's only now, as of 2020, that I actually have a starting point for a career that I can take to a whole other level. It's like I've reached a level where I am happy. I've reached a level where I'm sustainable, and well, for now, knock on wood. But there's been a lot of things that went into it along the way, and like one of the things is hard work, obviously, but there's so much more to it. And I just thought that maybe if I talk to the people who helped me over the years, who gave me some sort of strategy to go about various aspects of the industry, or if I talk to people who've come up alongside me in the industry, who've worked with these huge artists and gone on to make businesses of their own, I thought maybe if I shared that experience with my students, maybe they'll get something out of it. This is definitely not a 10 things to make an audio career. This is not a one-by-one, step-by-step list to actually get you from here to there. This is just a recanting of experiences that hopefully will inspire some people, hopefully will educate people, and if anything else, it'll be a fun trip down memory lane. So, in that spirit, I'd like to welcome my first guest, a very good friend of mine, Vicki Aubin. She's a career coach at the Flatiron School. I hope I got that right. Right? Do you want to give a little introduction? Go ahead, Vicki.
Yeah, sure. Hey, everybody. I'm really excited to be here. And actually, I'm honored to be part of this very first episode of this series, Jeet. My name is Vicki Aubin. I'm a career coaching manager at the Flatiron School. And I think I have kind of an interesting background. I've spent the past 5+ years in the career coaching field at Flatiron School, helping our students transition to new careers that they love. Prior to that, I had my own career coaching consultancy and worked with both clients and organizations. A lot of it was focused on people transferring or launching careers in new areas that they had never been in before. That's a big passion of mine because I myself have been a career transitioner. I actually started my career in the music business. So that's kind of where Jeet and my connection kind of starts from. Started my career in the music biz, was in there for about 7 or 8 years doing really interesting things, college radio promotions, convention management, record label operations. Then I kind of found myself going into the direction of HR and recruiting in the corporate world, Fortune 500 companies, Goldman Sachs, Deloitte, Morgan Stanley, worked at an executive headhunting firm for some time. So I've got to see many different industries. But my true passion has and always continues to be the arts in music. And so I've always been passionate about helping people who are really aspiring to have a career in this area. It's always been like a passion of mine to help those individuals. I'm really excited to be here today with Jeet.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. Wow, we've talked about doing something for a while, right? Like we've had various ideas on doing projects together, whether it was doing a cover song of my favorite band, which is
Periphery.
Yes. Tearing a hole inside.
You're buried alive.
Yes, you got it. Absolutely. Matt's going to be proud.
I hope so. I hope he's been invited today because he would be proud.
I didn't, but he's Matt Halpern is always welcome into any aspect of my life. Yeah, so we connected. I want to say a couple of years ago, around in the music scene. Actually, is that correct?
Yeah, you and I met through the live music jam scene in Newport, in Jersey City, New Jersey.
Right.
PM Jam nights. That's how we met, through mutual friends who were musicians who would go there. There'd be live jams every Friday, every type of musical style imaginable. It was awesome. It was really great. And I had played,
Yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm a drummer, actually. And so I have a cajon. So I would jam with other friends. We actually would practice in advance. So this was very like prepared performances. And I had a blast. And I went in with a couple friends and we would perform these songs live. And it was great.
Now, yeah, I think it was on the music scene. I think my guitarist at the time, Sudeep, you were friends with him, and I think he introduced us. And I think
Did you invite Sudeep today?
So for for all students out there, this is why you need somebody like a Vicki in your life to like just basically get your shit together, man. It's like, come on, why are you not thinking? God damn it.
Episode 2.0. Okay.
No, I didn't invite him. I mean,
invite Sudeep.
Well, I figured he's doing his own thing. He's always welcome. Anybody's welcome. I was just primarily doing this for my students.
Yeah. So I just want to say something, if I can, not to interrupt. I'm really excited to have some of your students actually watching this today. I know I've never had the pleasure of meeting them, but just so you all know, Jeet talks a ton about you. He's going to shake his head and say no because he's modest, but he loves his students. And I always enjoy hearing about his classroom experiences, both at Rowan and at SAE. So I'm just really excited to be here and for us to be able to share anything that we can that resonates with you and you all find helpful.
Students, don't let any of that go to your head. I'm still going to grade you very fairly. And if you don't do your shit, I'm talking to you after class.
That's probably true.
Yeah, so we immediately like hit it off. We started like talking about like each other's personal goals and like career goals and how we would want to get there. I remember like one of the first things that that at least you helped me out with was I had an interview with Engine Room Audio, which was one of the first studios that I would yet to be part of. And I do remember very distinctly that I had gotten the email, and my plan was very, very simple. Basically, go in, talk about what I do and like how I like music and how I guess I want to be an engineer. And that was it. I didn't really put any other thought into it. But I remember very specifically you were like, no, there's a strategy to it. There's also like you have to take a bit of care and effort to it. Like read up on the company, see what they're about, see if you can provide value to that company. And do you want to just go a little bit into that and like in terms of like how to actually approach any opportunity that's presented towards you? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It really is about being strategic and intentional. I think the key word is intentional. Whether it's a job or a project or just a personal aspiration, but especially when it comes to a career pursuit. And I know in your case, we talked about how, a company is probably interviewing many individuals for this position, right? So if you kind of try to put yourself inside the mind of the person who's doing the hiring manager, what do you think is going to be important to them? Well, they're going to want to bring somebody on board who understands what the organization is about, what they do, what their specialties are. Somebody who, and I would even take that to a higher level. It's not just about going into an interview and coming off like you want a job. You have to make them see that you want this job with this organization. And I can see you reacting in certain ways. And I think that's probably because that's something that Jeet and I had many conversations around. And it's really about targeting what you're going to talk about, how you're going to introduce yourself in a way that is completely positioned towards this organization, what's important to them, how you can add value, like Jeet said. So the job description, got to look at the job description. Got to look at it in advance, not 30 minutes or an hour before. Do it the day before or a couple days in advance. Do as much research as you can on the organization. Go to their website, read every page on their website. What's their founding story? Maybe it was really interesting or cool. You can talk about that in the interview. That will certainly be impressive. What is their product or service? Who are their clients? Any notable things about them in the news? That's definitely a big plus, is to just kind of have that market knowledge about them. And specifically the job description. What have they stated that they're looking for in the ideal candidate? And so it's your goal to look at that. And I always say print out. I know that's like really old school and like uncool, but I'm all for printing things out and taking a marker or a Sharpie. I don't care. I'm going to say it. I think when you have it in hand, it's real. Go through your resume, go through the job description, take a highlighter in every line in that job description. Find out where on your resume you've done that. You've done something similar to that. You've done something that is transferable to that. And be ready to have those things at top of mind. So when they ask you about those things, you'll have a great example to give that's going to be really relevant to them. Or if they don't ask you about those things, you definitely want to speak up and be enthusiastically sharing with them those things about you that you want them to know about them. So I would say preparation, passion, and those are two really big parts of it. And yeah. I'll add one last thing. Sorry.
No, yeah.
Is I think people don't realize, job candidates don't realize that they control 50% of the interview conversation. It is a mutual assessment. And if you can look at any goal going into any interview, it's like you want to have come out of that interview feeling 100% confident that you have educated them on everything, all the awesome things that they need to know about you and why you want to be a part of their organization. And if you've come out feeling great, you've done that, you have done your job. And so really, really customize, make it specific. And that extra effort will definitely go a long way.
Right. And I remember, it's so funny. It's literally like your.
Does it bring back memories?
It brings back a lot of horror stories and nightmares, but that's exactly the point, right? Like this mini series is exactly for people who think like the way I thought. When I even hearing you right now, I remember when I heard it back then for the first time, it was very much like, oh my God, what? This is like, I thought, like, shouldn't I just be judged based on like, how good my mixes sound or how passionate I am about music? Like, it all sounded way too contrived and like too like planned out, and you remember, because I was so fucking reluctant about all this stuff. Remember? You remember how?
Yes, I do.
Right?
I do. And I remember one thing that came to your mind was, but I'm a creative person. I shouldn't have to think about this aspect of things. I'm a creative. But it really is both, because you are creative, but you're also, it's about the business and the organization that you want to be a part of. They're a business. So you need to think about how you're going to, in a sense, market yourself to them, right? They're a business. They want people on their team that's going to help them continue to be successful and grow. So you really need to keep that in mind. I think that's probably one of the most powerful things that you can do.
That's a very hard switch, though, for a creative, to do, like, to think about this thing that's like impacted their heart and their soul, and like, they kind of make these little creative babies, and like suddenly you have to like put a business around that and structure something around that. It's very difficult to really think of it like that. It becomes almost like you're going to be part of a job, but that's kind of the point at the end of the day.
I think all it takes is just like a shift of perspective, because in the end, like if you're going for a job, that job is probably they're a business, especially if they're a for-profit business, right? They want to get those right people on the team who want to be there, who can do the job, because they're going to be the best employees. And so as a creative person, I think this is actually an opportunity for you to tap into your creative side and think about, what are all the things about myself that they really should know about me? What have all the things that I've done, maybe things I've forgotten about in the past, things that people might think might not be relevant, like a side project, something you did over the summer, a freelance thing, something you did in college, a college project, or like a project at SAE. All these things are experience.
That's so true. And as soon as you started saying that, just to like get off the engine room job application for a second, um, that leads me to the whole O1 process that I went to, which was just a wonderfully horrific nightmare, if you will. Not to use the same terminology, but like, well, before we
You
get
want to tell people about what O1 is and
yeah,
the
yeah.
process?
Before we get into O1, I do want to just
Yeah.
close out the engine room thing by saying that even though you had said all this stuff to me, and I'm sure I must have told you this over the years, but I did very minimal research. I went to the website. I was like, okay. I looked at some pictures. Like, okay, cool. Andy Vendette. Oh, cool. Rush. He did Rush. That's pretty cool. And I didn't think
And
anything.
that was an engineer who worked there, right?
Yeah, yeah. So like,
Yeah.
so I did. I was so reluctant, but even within that, I I did like the absolute minimum. I'm telling you the honest truth. Like even though you said all that stuff and it sounded like the right thing to do, I did the absolute minimum. But I went in for the interview. The interview was fine. You know, I'm a pretty chill guy. Like so, there's nothing really terrible that happened. But there was a very distinct moment where the operations manager at the time was walking me around the studio, and he walks me into the mastering room, and Andy Vendette is there. And I say, "Oh, you're Andy Vendette. Didn't you work on Rush and Dream Theater and stuff like that?" And he just kind of he lit up and he was like, "Yeah, I did. Oh, wow, nice to meet you." And then I think the operations manager took notice of that, which is like, "Oh, this guy actually gives a shit about this place and is actually has done some type of research in terms of like what this company is about." I don't know if that helped me get it, but I'm definitely not going to say it hurt. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So, I th-
Yeah, yeah. No, I think it's great that you did that. And that, like you said, something as small as that, it showed them that you actually know about who they are and what they do and who the people are that are part of the organization. And that tells them that you care.
I would love to talk to. His name was Benoit. He's in France right now. But I'd love to talk to him again and just see like, was that the reason why you hired me, or
You should. That would be a great episode.
I think I would be proven right. I think just because I'm a pretty chill dude, he hired me. But you might be right. Maybe he hired me.
I think it's several things, including the prep that you did. I do truly believe that.
Yes, and look,
I do.
there's no there. Let's just say that there's no way to actually test that for sure. But it's never hurt. It never hurt to do a little
That's
extra.
true. That's true.
Um, Paul says, "Would you look at that? Doing your homework actually paid off. Big surprise." Yeah, yeah, it totally did. So, just to jump back to the O1 thing, because we kind of touched on it for a second. If you guys don't know, I am not a citizen of the United States. I came here on a student visa, and that student visa, once it expired, I would have to transition to some type of work visa. The H1 is more of like, hey, let's get a computer job and let's work till we die and make a lot of money and blah 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 blah. And I had no interest in doing that at all. Um, but I did apply for what's called the O1 visa, the artist visa, and that, man, I thought it was going to be as simple as like, hey, I'm an artist. I'm getting into sound engineering. I worked on a couple of things, but no, it wasn't that. I had to approach this like it was the job of my life or something. And
Yeah, I remember that.
yeah, yeah. It was rough, man. It was really rough. But again, you really helped guide me in terms of like, you know, just to give you guys an idea on top of loads of paperwork that's involved and loads of evidence that's involved. You also have to present a curriculum vitae, which is like an expanded resume, right? If I'm not mistaken. Um,
Hmm.
so, and that curriculum vitae basically had to list out everything that you've ever done in your entire life that makes you worth being a part of the United States. You know, basically, if I had to put it any way, that would be it.
What
Uh,
really makes you like a distinguished professional in your field?
yeah,
Yeah.
whatever, right? So I had to list out all this stuff, and I think one of the things that really made sense to me over the years, it's like whoever's gonna look at this, they might not know like what I've done, or like they might not know who I am, if I'm a cool guy, terrible guy. They don't know what mixing is. They might not know how to how big is Fergie or how big is Don Q. They might not know any of this. You have to literally spell it out in the most concise, accurate, eye-catching way that you can, and that was a horrible, frustrating process. I think for you too, because I'm sure you got pissed many times.
I remember when we were working on your resume, well, on the CV, I'm going to call it, because
Yeah.
it really was several pages. So a much more expanded resume of everything you've done professionally related to the field of audio engineering in any way, shape, or form.
Mhm.
And I remember we took quite some time, pardon me, to build out this resume. And like when you said spelling it out, just to give people an idea, because I think this is definitely something that can be applied to any resume, in audio and entertainment in any industry, really. Is I remember we were like, okay, in the engine room audio section, it just can't be bullets. We have to spell it out and make it clear for the person who's reading this, who probably isn't a music industry tech person. We have to make it clear what was the real significance of this organization you were a part of, and what was the real significance of the artists and the things that you did. So I remember we did like a brief description of what engine room audio was, its significance in the industry. We went into the artists that you mixed, that you what's the word, that you
Exactly. I'm a
mastered. No,
Yeah.
no, no, that you mastered. I was just thinking the right verb.
Very good. Very
Records
good.
that you worked on. And I remember we went into detail, like Grammy award winning artists such as blah blah, mastered hit singles for Grammy award winning artists such as this, and a platinum selling artist, blah blah blah. That is so much context, above and beyond versus just saying, mastered records. Like, that's night and day. That's so much more powerful. That's so much more kind of like quantifiable.
Yeah.
So much more understandable. So I remember that was an approach that we took to every single section of your resume, and we were like, where can we communicate the significance, anything quantitative, the results or the impact that you had in every single thing you were doing.
Now, I mean, look, this is people who are watching now are probably going to apply for jobs within the music industry, but still, there is a part of this. Like, okay, I was making a resume for somebody who may not know music, but people here will be applying to music jobs. But that doesn't mean you can't take some of the ideas here of like presenting something in like a really good, like, why don't do you want to just touch on like presenting yourself, like, even right now, just I'm trying to keep it casual, but I also know that I have to look somewhat decent. If this was 10 years ago, I don't think I would have come on camera looking this good. Not that I look good. This hair is pretty bad. But do you want to just talk a little bit about presenting yourself? Because I think that's another thing that I was really struggling with in terms of like
Just like professional image and stuff.
yeah, because I don't like talking about myself. I don't like, I mean, I think I've gotten a little better at it to, and, I'm a little worried that I might be getting like a little too into it, because I really don't think that talking about yourself is attractive. Like, I think that the work will always speak for itself. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. And actually, I have a question. Are people able to like chat and ask questions?
Totally.
Oh, okay. Are people asking questions?
Not yet.
Do we want them to ask questions now, or do we want to hold them to the end? I'm just curious.
They can jump in whenever they feel
Okay.
like it. This
All right, cool.
this is informative for anybody who wants it, and if they don't want it, they can just fuck off. Well, you know what I mean. They can just not be a part of it. Anyway, go ahead.
That's real nice, Jeep.
Okay.
So what were we talking about? Image.
Presenting yourself.
Presenting yourself. Yeah, yeah. I remember one thing that would always come up in our conversations was, I feel so weird. I don't want to brag about myself. I don't want to sound arrogant.
And I still don't.
And
I mean, just,
but yeah, but here's the thing to think about, is that when you are pursuing a role, or anything where obviously there are other people who are also pursuing that same thing, You really need to think about how can you distinguish yourself. If you want them to choose you, you actually really need to think about not just being another candidate, but what is it about you that you can convey that's going to make them perk up, that's going to make them be really interested, to make them going to think that you have something really unique to offer, some kind of value that you have to offer them. So I think even thinking about like, bragging or arrogance, I think turn that into the facts. And I think that kind of went to the work that we did on your CV, on your resume, when we were just talking about the bullets. Saying that you mastered hit singles for Grammy Award winning artists such as X, Y, and Z, those are actually facts. Like you can and if you think like you're bragging or whatever, stop and like check yourself for a second and be like, this thing that I'm saying, did this actually happen? Yes. Is this actually true? Just look at the facts. We're not making a judgment here. Mastered hit records for Grammy Award winning artists such as XYZ. Is that completely truthful? Yes. So great. So that's actually not bragging. That's actually truth.
No, that's true. I mean, look, even as you said it right now, I even felt uncomfortable. Like, there's just something about it there's something about stating facts, as you say, that just has a little bit of discomfort with me because, like, I don't. But now after doing it, I understand that, like, oh yeah, that's what actually lets people know that you've done stuff.
People, yeah, I want to point this out. In the process of going for a role or again pursuing whatever it is, and I went back to this before, you are 50% of the interview process, and actually you hold a lot more power than you realize. The company will only know about you what you have made known. When you're at an interview, they'll only know about you what you've said and actually what you haven't said. You control the narrative. Right. I think that's something I'd really love to put into people's minds. You 100% control the narrative. Right. And so really think about what is important for them to know about you. And when you were just talking now about still feeling some discomfort around, talking about things that you've done, really, again, I think there's a couple ways to kind of check yourself on it. Number one, are these the facts? And again, we're not looking for judgment. We're just looking for the key facts. If it's factual, then great. Then right. That should be included. And with that, I would say also, these are things that you've done that you're proud of. So why wouldn't you want to showcase this about yourself, right? Like really in that aspect.
Pride is a little strong of a word for me, but I understand what you're saying.
But you wouldn't have gone to Engine Room Audio if you didn't want to work with well-known engineers and artists and get that experience.
Right, but I mean, well, not necessarily. You know the truth, right? It's like I'm very passionate about music and the type of music I like. I wanted to get good enough. I wanted to get my skills to a high level where I could produce that kind of music. Like working with the biggest artists in the industry was kind of like a nice little add-on to it. It's not really something that I was like chasing too much. I only started chasing it because I knew that it would bring value to my O1 and I wanted to stay in the country. Mm-hmm. And I think that was one of the most difficult times in terms of like just like, okay, you kind of have to turn a little bit into this guy who presents himself better because that's going to get you to stay in the country. It was just a really difficult dilemma to be in, to like, you have to change a bit of yourself to reach your goals.
And actually the process of applying for jobs and pursuing things like this and the act of personal marketing communications, which is your resume, your cover letter, networking, outreach emails, interviews, right? These are ways that you're marketing yourself, communication methods, which you're marketing yourself. Again, you completely control the narrative. They're only going to know what you allow them to know. So make sure they know what they need to about you as an individual, and that make them see that you are unique. You are somebody who they should be happy to have as a part of their team.
Right. My one of my students, Tyrone, is in the comments. What's up, dude? How's Pro Tools treating you? He's guy. let me just say a little something about Tyrone. Okay, Tyrone Green, right? He's one of my students at SAE, and he was really struggling. He was feeling down because Pro Tools was just eluding him. He was like, oh man, and he was like saying, oh, I'm too old to be getting into Pro Tools. Like all these all this shit is like working against me. I don't like technology. I just want to be part of the art and everything. But he has come such a long way. Like he's just been grinding and grinding. So big shout out to Tyrone. He was saying, I think it's all about timing and letting it happen naturally. Okay, so that I agree with. But if they don't, if there's no opportunity presented to bring it up naturally, then they, as a job employer, they would have missed knowing something about you that you could have
That's
just.
right. And that's why you need to take ownership for everything you're doing for yourself in your career, including in your job interviews and in your resume. This is an opportunity to take ownership and make sure, again, they have all the information that they need on you.
Right.
I actually hear this sometimes from people I coach where they're like, oh, well, they didn't ask me about this project that I did. They didn't really ask me about my experience doing that. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, did you take the opportunity to speak up and share with them those things?
Yeah.
So again, you have a big role to play in how you're marketing yourself.
I will say that I think again the defining factor that really forcibly changed my perspective on that was the O1 thing, because if I did not mention that I had worked on all these things, if I had just been like, well, if they don't want to know, why should I tell them? It's like, they should find it out naturally or whatever. Yeah, okay. But the US, consulate or whoever makes these decisions, like they're not going to come and follow up and ask me like, hey, so you're a sound engineer, what did you do? I actually care about how you feel and what you think, and I would love to hear your whole life story. It's like, no, they don't have time for that. And it's probably
Exactly.
the same with job interviews. Like they're probably getting hundreds of people who want to be a part of the job. Like I know Engine Room is getting a lot of applications. You have
Mm-hmm.
to like be a little bit assertive in like getting them to really understand why you need to be there, why you're valuable, and why you will help that company go, or the country go to that next level. This country needs a Jeet. If anything, just to be stubborn and be arrogant and silly. Yeah, but you know what I mean? That was a big factor, like understanding that if I didn't do this, if I didn't switch on that perspective of like, presenting myself better, you don't have to say, it can be said in the right way. If it's said in the right way and you present yourself properly, you just greatly increase your chances for being hired. And that doesn't just go for visas or employers, that goes to even clients you meet on the music scene. It's like there's
Yeah,
always
yeah.
a way to present yourself in the best way so that you are like top of mind to them, and they're like, you know what, I think we want to go with that guy. Like it's all the same. It's presenting
I'm
yourself.
gonna
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, sorry. Sorry to interrupt.
No, no, no.
I just wanted to say I think there's a real opportunity here to even connect because, like, everyone who's in your classes, I know at SAE and people that have been in your classes prior, like they're in this because they're passionate about this and they love the music industry and they find a lot of exciting things about it. And it's very dynamic and it's always changing. That's one great thing about it. But really think about like the artists that you all love, like so much money and effort and departments and teams go into marketing them. It's not just like an artist releases a record and it just blows up. Like I think people really have no idea like how much investment and time and resources, like this is all happening on the back end with all of the artists that you have come to know and love. There are marketing strategies, there are PR and promotions and strategies and digital marketing strategies. And again, consider the artists that you do love and that you do find really unique. Why do you think they're unique? And how did they market themselves? How were they marketed? And I think in a way, if you can maybe point to somebody you really admire and kind of think about that in terms of you and be like, what is it about the way that they were promoted that really resonated with me or appealed to me? And then you start to see that like, yeah, this is being done for artists themselves, for the music that you're going to be mastering or mixing.
Right.
So it really is all interrelated, and something that you need to kind of take ownership for doing for yourself as well.
Yeah, no, totally agree with that. Maybe the artists that I listen to are more underground, and like maybe that's why I didn't relate to how to present yourself or whatever. Um,
But I will say, but bands like Periphery, like they have a record label. I'm sure they have a PR agency or what have you. They have a whole team that is, they have tour management team, booking agents, people who are planning the tour. People aren't just going to show up at a Periphery show if nobody knows about it. They're marketing it, they're promoting it all over the web through their fan clubs, through whatever the heck that they're doing. Their members do. I can talk a lot about Periphery.
no,
It's
I was
second
gonna say if
knowledge about Periphery,
I was gonna say if Matt was watching, he would
which he
basically.
should have been. He should have invited him, but that's beside the point. But Matt does his drum clinics and his really great educational things, and those are all ways for him. And in essence, he's indirectly marketing Periphery by doing that and marketing himself. So there's a lot that goes on for people to know about the Periphery shows that you go to and the records that you buy and these special all access passes, meet the band before and after and have a cocktail with them and go to Matt's drum clinic in a bus thing.
I just think it's funny that if he is watching this, he'll be like, "How does this career coach at the Flatiron School know so much about Periphery?" This is how much I love you guys, Matt. Like I talk endlessly about this band.
I probably know every song on the record just because you never stop singing them.
I think you just know the popular ones or the ones
I think I know the popular or the ones that you kept singing. Um,
Yeah.
um,
So go ahead.
Oh no! When you brought up your student Tyrone, and thank you Tyrone for that comment and question. I wonder if this is an opportunity to go into, because I know you were saying he was having a challenging time with some software. I'm wondering if this is an opportunity to go into a conversation around failure and
Sure.
working through challenging things that we were talking about before.
So what you want to? My whole life is failure, nonstop failure after failure after failure, with little bouts of success. Literally, that is what I remember of life. Is that too negative or? Okay, well,
Can you get any more negative, G?
well, that's why you need somebody to offset your.
You and, I know you and I were talking about NYU before. I know that's
Yes.
something you wanted to bring up.
I did, yeah. I mean, and I just want to preface all of this by saying that NYU provided a really great platform for me to learn, for me to meet people who I'm still in touch with to this day, people who I have done sessions with. In fact, I think that the interview offer or the interview email was through an NYU email blast. For Engine Room, I mean, the opportunity to intern at Engine Room was on like a NYU email blast. So of course, I'm forever grateful for that. So whatever I say is purely just out of experience and something that I think
Right.
other people will
So,
benefit from.
so you got a master's in music tech from NYU.
Yeah. And- yeah.
Would you like to share more
Sure. Yeah. Sure. So
about that process? Because
yeah.
you and I were talking about something in particular before. I know you wanted to share with everybody.
Yeah, well, first of all, let me just say that I only went to NYU because it was a reason to come to the US and break into the New York market. So,
And that was very intentional and strategic of you. It
now,
was.
yeah, when I was, if I think about it now, maybe that sounds way too smart for when I was 20 or something. I think it was a little bit of luck too. I think I just wanted to come to the US and yeah, anyway, it was just a way for me to break in. I don't think I was that calculated like, yeah, I'm going to break in and I'm going to make it and I think it just there's a bit of luck that was involved as well. But yeah, I did my NYU program and then at the end you have to present what's called a master's thesis, which is basically 60 pages of text of an experiment that you've conducted in a field of research, right? And I remember the week prior to my presentation was in front of my advisor and I think the head of the music department at the time. But a week prior to that presentation, I had been, my advisor had said like, hey, why don't you just change this aspect of your paper and it'll be a lot clearer. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh yeah, sure, whatever gets me through this degree. I mean, I'm just trying to finish this thing. Because at that time I was already working at Engine Room and doing all these cool things that I was very fortunate to be a part of. So I was like, as long as I graduate, what's the big deal? Um, and I remember I made the change, handed it in, or made the change, and then got ready for my presentation. I did my whole presentation, and at the end of it, the guy said, um, "That was all well and good, but you didn't actually present your thesis." And I was like, "Well, what do you mean I didn't present my thesis?" And he said that you actually changed something in between your submission and uh, your presentation. And in my head, it was, and just to give you some context, it was literally like an added line or something just to make something clearer. And I know that these things, like the final submission and the presentation, are not like the end all be all. They're like, they have to go through some process before they bring it a part of NYU publication, right? So I was kind of surprised, and I was like, okay. And then he said, so unfortunately, we're gonna have to fail you, and you're gonna have to represent and resubmit in the next semester. I just remember, man, I just remember my whole world just just dropping out underneath me. I was like, I cannot believe, because I added one stupid line to make things clearer, nonetheless, not to like, not for any other reason, but to make things clearer. It just seemed like such a BS reason. I mean, okay, thinking about it now, I'm still kind of upset that they kind of put me through that. And I just remember being very, very upset. Very, very. I think I called you, and I was like, I'm done. Like, that's it. Like, screw all of this. I don't want to finish my degree. This was totally a waste of time. If they're gonna be so petty about this line, then f them. That's it. Like, I'm done. I was literally going to just stop my degree and just go straight into the engine room stuff. Do you remember this? Do you remember when I?
Oh, I remember this. Yeah, you were pretty down. You were, yeah.
Down. Pretty down is an understatement.
You were devastated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. Like, maybe you can elaborate on this, but like, I do remember you saying that you're so close. Why don't just finish the degree? Just finish.
Yeah. I remember, like, you've come all this way. You've come to the U.S. for this program. You spent all these years in this program, and you've done all this work. Like, why would you not finish this out?
Because I was so upset at them and so angry at them.
I know.
I didn't want to give them the pleasure of me crawling back and saying, I'll finish the degree and make you happy.
Right. But that was, it's not like there wasn't any opportunity. They were like, okay, you need to do X, Y, and Z, come back and present it next semester. So you had the opportunity to take that feedback, process it, and then make some changes, and you would have the opportunity again.
But I had two issues with that. One, that the feedback was, I think, completely invalid. Just my personal opinion, because I added like a line, I think a sentence or two sentences to make a point clearer. It wasn't like there was something wrong with my thesis or presentation. I just changed something to make something clearer. So that made me feel like, okay, are you doing this just to scare people? Are you doing this because, you're that strict about the rules about presenting? And it just didn't seem like a legitimate reason. And the second reason for me being really upset about this is because I'm on a student visa. Everything to do with me staying in the country depends on stuff like this. You know what I mean? That's why I want. But yeah, sorry. Go ahead. So I did. I did want to quit. I really did.
Yeah, and I know we had many conversations around why you shouldn't, and that as much as you might not have agreed with their call, it was their call to make, and you could do one of two things. You had a choice. You could either just said, forget this and leave, and the whole 2+ years of your life that you spent would have gone to waste, and you would not have the degree. Or you could, again, take this information, not as rejection. And I think this is a great point to bring up that I wanted to get to here too, is that it's feedback. It's not failure, it's feedback. It's really the mindset that you bring with you into like, for example, the thesis being failed the first time, or perhaps not getting through in the process in a job interview or something. One thing we talked about before was conspiracy theory. Right? And just realizing, like, there is not some big conspiracy theory here. The organization
I gotta say, I felt that it was a big conspiracy
I know you did.
theory.
But the organization, they are the ones, and again, think of it just like the employer is the one that has the job to offer. NYU was the one that had granting, approving of the thesis that was their call. Right? So again, you could completely give up and walk away, or you could just realize, like, okay, I'm not happy with this, but I've gotten some feedback. I'm going to take this. I'm going to have a growth mindset. I'm going to take this feedback. I'm going to apply this feedback, and I'm going to try again. And I think if you can take, and I use this term really loosely, failure. I hate that word. I think failure should be seen as feedback. Look at, again, look at it as feedback. If you have that growth mindset and you see it as, okay, I need to glean what insights or information what learning can I glean from this and apply it to next time. And this is how you're going to be able to stretch and grow. This is for anybody. You're going to be able to just stretch and grow as a professional, personally, and be able to navigate through challenges or things that might happen along your path when you least expect them, that might be very challenging or disruptive. And again, just realize that there is no straight line. Like, that is the truth. No one's career is a straight line. It is all over the place. And that's okay. And it's what you do with the information that you get.
I remember one thing that you always used to say was everything is a connection to the next big thing in your life. I think that was, even though I didn't see it at the time, and I in fact probably disagreed with it, I think that turned out to be true. I just want to, hi Tiffany, she's another student in my class. Barbara, who was a teacher back at Rowan University.
Awesome.
I don't know if she's still here, but yeah, she said,
everybody.
Barbara says, you have to put yourself out there. It's important to take chances, to take every opportunity to learn. 25 years in, and I'm still learning. I love it. Love the shirt. This is actually a Flatiron, a WeWork t-shirt. It's called Student for Life because it's cheesy. And
no, but actually, this is exactly what we were just talking about. Student for Life means you have a growth mindset. You always want to learn.
I think that's key.
Out new information, new wisdom.
That's a great growth mindset. I think that's a really cool
growth
term.
mindset.
I like that term. It's like you can, I guess you can always see things as like shitty and like negative and like, oh, it's not my fault, or oh, it's them and they, they're doing something against me. Or you can see it as, okay, well, that didn't work out, and I'm gonna.
And not take it personal, right? We were talking about this before.
Man, I don't know what it is. It's
hard not to. It's hard not to sometimes. It really isn't. But again, if you can just step back and be like, this is not something personal. This is just a judgment call that was made. Take it as feedback. What can I learn from this? How can I apply it next time? And like you were just saying, it's all about everything is connected, and each step you are taking, realize that's taking you to the next step and the next step and the next step. And if all of those, even if very slowly, are bringing you in the direction that you want to be in, then you are headed in the right direction.
And eventually getting that master's degree has given me so many opportunities.
Absolutely. Yeah, the Rowan and SAE, absolutely. That master's degree has enabled you to become an adjunct lecturer and professor. 100%.
Yeah, I really, I didn't see the big picture at the time, I guess,
we talked about getting your foot in the door, right? And it's like you just need that one thing to get your foot in the door, and by default, everything from there is only up. It's not going to go down; it's going to go up.
I think. Do you remember when I applied for this job at I want to say CUNY? It was like somewhere near Toronto or something. It was like,
oh yeah, there was something in upstate New York.
It was upstate New York, and they called me in for an interview, and we were just talking in the interview, and I kind of slipped out and said, "Oh, that doesn't sound right," but I kind of said that, "Oh, you do I have to like teach or like present anything?" Which might have been a silly mistake, but they said no, but that's a really interesting idea. So then they call me back a couple of weeks later and say like, actually, we would like you to teach and present something. And so I had to travel again 4 hours to get to this place. And I just remember like, okay, this is the second time I had to travel 4 hours one way just to get there, and then 4 hours back. That's like literally a day gone. Never gonna get that. I just remember, and they didn't give me the job. And again, I took it very personally. I was like, I bet you it's because of some visa thing or it's because of something.
But we don't know, and you should never assume. But it's an opportunity to ask for feedback, whether they'll give it or not
They
after the
didn't.
fact. Right. But it never hurts to ask.
Yeah, I guess the thing is that it's gonna be at the end of the day, it's gonna be up to them, and they have all right to say whether they want to take you or not, and give you any reason or not to take you. They are completely legally, um,
Mhm.
set in that.
And yeah, and I think it's also important never to assume why you were or weren't given a position. You
Hmm.
never know. They could have had somebody internally that has been groomed for this. It could have been somebody already knew somebody, so they had a personal connection to them. It could have been something completely different. It doesn't mean that they hate you. You could have been very close. It could have been neck and neck between you and somebody else, but it's how you respond. And this is really important, I think, keeping that person as a connection moving forward, because you never know. What if that person doesn't work out, but you were grateful and you bowed out gracefully and you kept the relationship going with them? Boom, you're the next person on the list. Or maybe 2 years go by and a similar role opens up and they look back at their records. Who did we interview a year and a half ago that we really loved? Oh, this person. Oh, let's reach out and see what they're up to. So that's why connecting with them on LinkedIn, staying in touch, having virtual coffee with them or whatever, but just keep that connection going, because you never know where that person's going to be employed in the future. Maybe you'll be meeting them again sometime. And maybe somebody will know them, and that can be able to connect you back up for your dream job. So
Yeah. I,
never assume where that can lead down the road.
I definitely have a couple of things to say about that. Like the place that I just said, I did try to keep in touch with them, but that never really led to anything. But SAE, I had actually applied to SAE at the top of last year, like 2019, and I didn't hear anything until like early 2020. Cause so you
Mhm.
never know where like these things end up down the road. But that,
Yeah, and you had more teaching under your belt by then.
oh my god, yeah, the wonderful trip to Rowan. I definitely love everybody at Rowan, but man, that trip was brutal.
And I think that's a great lesson in grit and perseverance, and really just like thinking about your why and like your bigger goal. Like you were willing to get up in the wee hours of the morning to travel 4 hours to this job and then 4 hours back because you knew this is something you wanted to do. Right. And you knew that this was somehow going to lead to something else for your future.
I think that's all. I think that's always been the way I've approached things, and I think that many people have told me to do things along the way. Even you've told me like, hey, do this, do this, do this. But I always see it as like as part of a much bigger game or a much bigger picture. Like even at Engine Room when I was like just not really making a lot of money at all. I was getting all these wonderful credits and I was being a part of like a many things and having all these opportunities. There was definitely a time where I was like, wow, but I mean, is this what life is? Is this what it means to be an audio engineer? Just like paycheck to paycheck and maybe freelance work whenever it and like, I'm not hustling hard enough. I don't know. I thought there might have been many issues, but I always saw that position as a position that would lead to the next thing and a position that would lead to another thing, because by the time I got to SAE, by the time I got to Criterion, I had done so much that it was like there would be very little reason for them to say no. because of my experience and all the things that I had done. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
so like even traveling 4 hours, it's like okay, yeah, it's kind of a pain, but one, I'm going to get the experience as a teacher. I'm going to be able to interact with people and learn how to interact in a classroom, right? I'm going to learn how to make use of my time. I'm going to learn how to go to sleep at 10 o'clock and wake up at 1 a.m. and catch a train at 3 a.m. Like, I'm going to learn all this stuff to learn how to manage my time and get the absolute effort. Like, at the end of the day, I think that's one big thing that you taught me is that this is my responsibility. If I don't do well in my life, in my career, in this dream that I've had or whatever since I was a little kid, like, oh, I'm going to be a whatever. If I don't take the initiative and learn how to adjust my mentality and learn how to sacrifice and learn how to see the bigger picture, then I'm not going to succeed and it's going to be completely my fault. There's nobody that I could have blamed. Yeah, okay. I mean, I'm not going to blame people for stuff that I could have done. It's basically all on me, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would love to add to that too. Yeah, just like we were talking about before, like it's about taking ownership. You are steering and driving your career. You are in the driver's seat. There may be positive things and happy things that happen along the way. There may be unexpected things and detours that you need to be take, but as long as you keep going and you don't stop and you don't look at that as a reason to stop, those are the people that have the careers that they want.
Yeah,
like,
Yeah, and I think being passionate about something, I think that's what it means to be passionate about something. I think that no matter
willing to do whatever it takes,
no matter how
persevere,
yeah, just not just like doing the same thing over and over, beating your head against the wall, but adapting, evolving, understanding the business, understanding the industry, understanding the technical side. I think when you're passionate about something, it's not necessarily about like why isn't this happening now, but it's more about like, oh, this is cool, how do I get to the next thing and then the next thing and then the next thing. This is 2020. It took me 15 years to get to a point where like I actually have like a normal life. Like a lot of my friends graduated and got good jobs and like pretty stabled out, good careers ahead of them. And I never really cared about that, so it never really bothered me. But when I look at my journey to this point, and I think about students who might be struggling when they're 2, 3, 4 years into it, it's like, man, it took me like I was literally. It's this year. It's not even like this happened. This didn't happen like 2, 3 years out. This is like this year, 2020. My life has completely changed, and I think it's because of every little thing that I did along the way, but all the people who helped me, like you, who inspired me and who were able to like change my mindset about a lot of things,
Yeah, and I want to add to that I know we're talking about a lot of things today that might seem kind of like, woo, this is kind of like intense, all this stuff that you're saying. And just know that like people don't need to go through this alone. Take ownership for your career, ask for help, seek out others. There are others like you. You can support each other. Start study groups, start job search strategy groups with each other. Seek out a career coach or seek out a mentor or what have you. Don't be afraid, because once there absolutely were tons of other people in your shoes, they remember what it was like and they would love to be helpful to you. People love to be asked for those things. They'll be honored, and it'll just be a great conversation. People love to talk about their stories, and it's a great way for them to kind of reminisce and share the wisdom that they learned with you, so you can have a more streamlined, successful journey, perhaps, to where you're going. So think about that as like reaching out and seeking these types of, like, I would call success partners. They have wisdom that you can benefit them. You can benefit from.
I definitely didn't get, I know all that, everything I said sounded like I got here on my own, and that is totally not the case. Like it was a lot of people who helped me along the way. People like, I could pick out so many people at random, like Chris Griffin, like, I remember, I don't know if I ever told you this, but like there was a time when I was trying to learn how to record drums. It was very important that I understood how to do that, and it was with my friend Richard, wherever he is. Richard from the band.
Is Richard on here today?
Oh, I think he might be.
Okay.
Oh,
Hey,
Luis.
Richard.
Luis is here. Luis is my guy from Rowan University. He's
Nice.
awesome. Really cool artist. He said you always acted like the trip was no problem,
Aw.
bro. I'm telling you now, it was a bit of a problem. No, but I remember I was trying to figure out how to record drums, and the first day, I was gonna go up at like midnight with my friend Richard, and we're gonna learn how to track drums. Chris Griffin, who is a seasoned, wonderful, amazing engineer. This guy has produced people like Kelly Clarkson, Madonna, all like he's been there, right? He came up and he was like, "Oh, what you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm just trying to figure out how to record drums. It's something I was always kind of scared of, but I want to try to conquer it." And he was like, "Oh, that's cool. Like, let me keep in mind that this guy has a family and a home and people to get to, and it's like 11:30 at night, you know." But I'll never forget that he he showed me pretty much everything that he does in terms of drum recording. He's like, he sat me down and like, okay, I'm going to place the microphone here. Why do you think I'm doing that? Or like, hey, why don't you place this microphone? Now, why are you doing that? Don't you think that it would be better? Like, he literally took the time to do that. And I think it's because one, he's a great educator, and I think he just really enjoys that. But two, I think that he also understands that an industry like the audio industry and an industry like the music industry works best when everybody's trying to help each other.
Hmm.
You know what I
I
mean?
love that. Yeah.
You gotta let the magic happen. The improv, baby, the improv.
How are we doing on time? We've hit the top of the hour.
Oh, I mean, I'm happy to.
I'm cool to keep going.
I
If
would.
you are and if everyone else is, I'm gonna leave it up.
I. Yeah, I
I
know.
think there are one or two other things we maybe wanted to get to, but I'll leave that in your capable hands.
Semi-capable hands.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like to keep going if that's okay with you. And yeah, I'm not sure how many people are watching, but it doesn't really matter. Like, this is information for anybody who wants to find it. So, one other thing that I wanted to touch on was, oh, you know what? I probably should have started with this, but like, how are you dealing with the COVID situation? How's everything going?
Oh, you're asking me
Hmm.
how I'm personally dealing with it. Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah. Um, I think I'm doing pretty well. I am very grateful that I've had really great health throughout this whole time. I live in New Jersey, which is like one of the highest, rates of the pandemic. But I've been following the guidelines. I've been following the rules, and I look to that as a big reason why I'm in really great health. I'm feeling great. I'm eating well. I do work remotely, completely from home right now. My role, where typically I would go into Manhattan every day to Flatiron School headquarters, we're all remote right now. It's
Yeah.
business as usual. I'm working regular hours. Things are busy. But I'm just grateful that I can do this and that I'm well, family and friends are all well,
That's good.
and just trying to stay positive and know that we will come out of this. And with that being said, I think this is a great segue
Yeah.
into a conversation too that we were talking about, as to how is this impacting the job market and how is this impacting job seekers
Yeah,
right now,
because I
right?
definitely have students on two sides of a spectrum. The one side is they're in school right now, and um, they're a little concerned, like, what is the job market looking like when I graduate? Right? That's one side of the spectrum. It's like, am I even going to get a job? Or like, if I graduate, am I just going to be sitting at home for like another year until stuff kind of comes down? The other side of the spectrum is I have a student who wants to get into an educational program. It's like, she basically wants to get into an audio school as of the fall, but she's worried
Hmm.
that, like, with the pandemic and everything going on, one, is it safe to do it, which is that's totally up to her, but
Right.
the second side of it is like, is it a smart thing to join a college, boot camp or anything now, as opposed to maybe taking a year off, doing some studying on your own. So there's a lot of like questions of like what should we be doing? Like, there's a lot of like fear as to what the job market's going to be. And especially in audio engineering where there's a lot of freelance work, it's like, how do you navigate that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That is the million dollar question, right? I definitely think that to answer like your question and some of some of the concerns and questions that you've heard from your students, it's definitely a personal choice. So first, I just want to say that it's definitely not for me to tell anybody what to do. It's a personal choice, but in that takes, I think, very careful consideration and deliberation. Um, and I'd like to kind of touch on a couple, three areas in particular, if I could,
Sure.
and just some context. So, like at Flatiron School, we have tons of students graduating all the time. Um, and we have students who traditionally have matriculated into both on-campus immersive programs and then purely online programs. Everything has been converted to online right now. So for the question as to your student who's like considering doing a program later this year, one of the three things that I want to recommend, highly recommend to everybody right now to help you build a foundation for success, to help you navigate through these very unique times that we're in. Three things: mindset, permission, and focusing on what's in your control.
Mm.
I'm going to kind of go backwards here.
Yeah.
Let's talk about focusing on what's in your
Oh
control.
man, that
So,
is a big thing for me.
yeah.
I
So,
I hate not being in control.
oh, sure, nobody does. But just realize that that is life. There are many things in our lives that are just naturally out of our control, but
Right.
there are many things that are directly in our control. And so when it comes to career, whether it's a job or considering, right, another educational program of learning or what have you, focus on what is in your control. What do you actually have the ability to do that can help you make the best decisions for yourself at this time and can lead you ideally open up the most opportunities for you, which can lead to the best outcome over time. And
Right.
really looking at it, this is a journey, this is a process, this is not an overnight thing. um, so for example, for your student who is thinking about going into a particular program of study, I think this is where it's time to really do very thoughtful, intentional due diligence and research on the different options that she's considering. Looking at the different places, researching their programs,
Right.
having conversations with their admissions team, or actually asking to talk to somebody in the actual whatever department it is that she's looking to potentially become a student of, and actually ask very specific questions. You actually have a right. You should definitely feel very empowered to be asking these important questions at this time. So, how has the pandemic impacted how your organization delivers its education to your students? How much has this changed from what it was before? Um, what are the graduation rates of students that have been going through your program since this?
Mm-hmm.
What type of career support is given to your students? What has the success, how has student outcomes or success been impacted by COVID that your career team has seen so far? And I think these types of questions are really important right now, and definitely nobody should feel ashamed or shy to ask them, because these are things to know if you're going to invest time and money
Yep.
and effort. And again, whether it's looking into an educational institution, whether it's looking into a potential company that you want to apply for, that you're going to interview for, or anything, you are in control. You have that power.
Yeah.
So I like to say, put on your detective hat. Like, this is your opportunity. No, seriously, get your magnifying glass, put on your detective hat, and sleuth away, ask
Exactly.
questions, find information, get the information that you need to make the best decisions for yourself. Similarly, in a job search, we all know that the entertainment industry has definitely been impacted significantly by what's going on right now, right? That being said, there are portions of the industry and other industries and types of companies that are still performing fairly well, and some that are even thriving. So again, consider the direction that you want to be in. Consider doing due diligence and research and having informational interviews and talking to people and doing research before you're pursuing something, to understand how well positioned is this company right now. Is this something that could potentially last? And um, For example, and consider like what aspects of the industry are there people still with audio engineering skills in need,
Right.
and really open up your eyes and don't think it just has to be one thing. Think about where anywhere can audio engineering skills be used,
Right.
in opening up your mindset to that. It doesn't have to just be a recording studio. It doesn't just have to be X, Y, or Z. And I think maybe could you speak a little bit to that, Jeet? Because I know we've
Yeah.
talked about this before in the past.
Totally. But I really want to just make that thing about control very, very clear because I just it's something that I really struggle with. I still somewhat struggle with to this day, which is like focusing on the things that you can't control only end up frustrating you, demoralizing you, and putting you in this horrible place where you start blaming yourself, you start blaming others. It's just not a good path, at least from what I've understood. And yet I still sometimes try to go down that path, right? Um, this is a very interesting time because like for freelance, like my all my freelance work, like in terms of working with bands that I make records with, all that has stopped. I mean, it has to because we have to stay safe. Except I had one student ask me like, "Hey, dude, can I come over to your house and like record vocals?" And I'm like, no, thank you, but no." And he was like, "Nah, I ain't scared of that shit, bro." And I was like, "Well, still no." um, but it stopped all my freelance work. Fortunately, that wasn't my primary like source of income or anything, but like it did make me realize this whole thing about control again, which is like, okay, I'm not getting any freelance work, or you could look at this as like, hey, I'm not getting a job, or hey, I'm not doing this, and it's like there's only so much you can control. Like you said, you can reach out to jobs, get information about what they're doing. Is there anything that you can provide a value that will either encourage them to hire you now, or at least keep you in mind for down the line when COVID is
Mm-hmm.
over?
Or be willing to take on a part-time role, a project-based work, contract role,
Yeah.
even like
Yep.
even like a volunteer role or something where you're just going to get hands-on experience that you can put on your resume. And once you have that, that is so powerful. Once you can say that, hey, I've been doing X here, that's
Right.
huge. That's having something versus nothing. And that will lead to the next thing, the next thing, and the next thing.
And I will say, I mean, maybe I'm just so much into this next to next to next thing that it's kind of automatic with me now. But that is one of the reasons why I'm doing this whole mini series. It's because, let me just go into that really quick, which is one, I'm in a very fortunate position to where I've been able to work from home. I am healthy, I am safe, I like living by myself, so I'm actually doing totally fine in terms of isolation and all that. But the other side of it is like I found myself having a lot of extra time because I didn't have to commute and all that stuff. And I didn't have a lot of freelance clients come in. So I was kind of losing out on making fun records. And I realized that, well, one thing that I can do is provide more value to my students. Like I love teaching so much. It's like it's such a joy, it's such a pleasure. It's so much fun to learn from people, but also like help them grow with you. And so I thought like, well, maybe let me just do this series. This is a free series. Like maybe 10 people will watch this in the our entire lifespan. But I look at this as like a way to share my experience, as a way to like maybe go to something else and talk to more people and maybe provide even more value. So basically, work on the things that you can't control. If you can't like find any places to employ you or anything, maybe it's worth trying some other things like getting a skill set. Like I didn't know how to stream. I didn't know how to stream video and audio and sync that up and how to change window panels. But you learn these things, right? You take control of what you want to do with your life.
I'd love to add some things in there if I can.
Sure.
Career-wise, what you can control, how well you research the company, how
Yep.
what's the quality of your communications with them, how well do you prepare for the interview, how well do you narrate your story and what they should know about you at the interview.
Yep.
Um, Considering there are some industries that are still really thriving right now,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like food food, e-commerce, delivery, medical arts, healthcare. Like there are definitely industries that are still going strong. Maybe there's some division of those companies that need somebody with your skill set. Maybe the job title isn't audio engineer, but maybe you can do a keyword search on a job board and look for something that requires a certain piece of software that you know because of this program that you've done. Or,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's lots of terminologies and jargon, Jeet, that you could probably share with your students. So that I'm sure there are pockets and opportunities for places to use their skill set that they might not have traditionally thought of.
I was gonna say that, like, yeah, I remember now why I brought up the point of me doing this. It's for multiple reasons, but also there might be other people out there also starting podcast webinars who might need somebody to mix the audio or run the video.
And that's experience.
And that's
experience. And you're going to get to know more people by that, who are going to tell other people about you, who are going to tell other people about you.
And look, even to bring it back more to control, which is, okay, maybe nobody else is doing that. You yourself can start a podcast or a video streaming thing and mix it yourself. This is all kind of like value. This is all value that you're adding to yourself. So that when an employer asks you, hey, so rough times during COVID, but I saw that you were still doing something to improve your skill set. I think that's a good look. I don't know. You're the career coach, so.
Oh goodness, yes. Because like at Flatiron, it's people being people are learning technical skill sets.
Yep.
So you gotta keep using and practicing and refining that skill set. Otherwise, you're a huge risk to employers. So I would say that too to any students of yours, maybe who might have already finished their programs or just not sure what to do with their time right now.
Yep.
Please keep practicing and building what you learned in your program. Do not stop, because if it comes up in the conversation and the employer says, and they're smart if they ask this, what have you been doing since graduation? Or, hey, what have you been doing since the last semester? You don't want to say nothing or not have an answer. That means that you're a risk to them because your skills have gone stale. So again, it's up to you to take ownership. Keep those skills fresh, seek out new projects, come up with new projects on your own, offer to help somebody with a project, whatever it is. And, promote that out there. If you have a blog or on your LinkedIn or Facebook, let people know that you're active and what you've been up to.
I've had some students make albums, make records, and mix it on their own. Like, that's fantastic.
Amazing.
That's perfect.
That's really amazing.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd love if I could. I don't want to take over, but there were 3 areas that I recommended people use as a foundation for navigating the COVID times career-wise, and I just want to. So the first one was control, focusing on what's in your control. So that was number 1. I'm going to go through the other 2 really briefly. Permission. It's a new way of life right now. It only benefits you to give yourself permission to do things differently, because things are different right now. Right. So give yourself permission not to check the news all the time, because that can drive anybody bonkers. Give yourself permission to do things differently, to take risks, to take a really creative approach to your career development, to your job search. Give yourself permission to seek out help and support from Jeet, from other instructors, from a mentor you might have, or what have you.
That's a big thing.
A career development professional. Do not be afraid. Do not feel bad to ask for support. Friends, family, do you need to talk to somebody because you're just kind of feeling down throughout all this? That's okay. Many other people are in your same shoes. If you know what would help you would be to talk to somebody, then seek out somebody that you could trust and that you think would be really helpful to just have that conversation with. And mindset. Build a mindset and habits that set you up for success. Make sure that you're balancing everything that you're kind of, exposed to in your life right now. Make sure you have balance. Make sure that you are incorporating into your daily life things that energize you, that bring you joy, even at this time. If you're somebody who meditates, or you have a certain type of physical exercise or practice that just helps you feel good and recharges you every day, do that. And there's no right or wrong way to exercise. Like for me, exercising and dancing, that's actually meditation for me. Right. I actually go into my zone when I'm doing those things. Reading, biking, running, coloring, watching Downton Abbey, which is one thing that I happen to do. God. That's meditation for me.
So boring.
In your opinion. But no, again, build a foundation, build habits and things that are going to keep you feeling balanced and just keep you realizing that there are many things to be grateful for. So make sure you're incorporating those things into your life that do energize you.
Going to say Mr. Carson is here to provide a service. What a silly show.
Oh my
It's just like,
goodness.
oh, I'm the queen. No, I'm the queen. Now you're the queen. Let's all be queens. Boring. You need some metal.
You don't know. You don't know nothing. You don't know nothing. Don't be dissing the Abbey. Do not be.
Let's see if there are any Downton Abbey fans out there.
I would love to know.
Oh, I'm sure there's nobody.
Only a million people that caused a movie to be made after 6 seasons. Yeah, that's all. Okay.
That's a conspiracy theory.
Sure, whatever. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. No, that's really cool. I just want to make sure that we touched on everything that I wanted to.
I think we did. Am I right, or did we forget anything?
There was there's 2 things. There's a couple of things that maybe we could just touch on.
And maybe we can close it half the hour, because then it'll be 90 minutes.
Sure. Kind of going back to seeing opportunity, right? We talked about how, you don't see whatever you do as the end all be all solution to your problems, or just see it as the opportunity to progress to the next thing.
I need to plug in, excuse me.
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah, I would say that
giving myself permission to plug in when needed in the middle of a podcast.
Oh, I've needed to pee for I've needed to pee for the last 30 minutes, so I feel you.
Okay. Okay, I'm plugged in. Thank you, everybody.
So yeah, seeing opportunity, I guess. I know it's very hard to see opportunity in a time that it's really rough, but again, it kind of comes down to what other choice do you have, right? It's you can either I know that it's hard, but how do you say this without being a ding dong, right?
What are you trying to say?
It's hard.
Just say it.
But what other choice do you have? We're all screwed.
We're all going through the same thing right now.
We're all screwed right now. So it's what other choice do you have other than?
I wouldn't say we're all screwed right now. That's
okay. No, but it's all.
We're in a different reality right now, and it takes a different approach to things.
It's tough times right now. Some people are in better positions than others.
Right, no, that's true.
Look, let's just be very clear. You and I are definitely in a very fortunate position, and I don't want to take that, take it away from anybody who's struggling. But at the same time, I can't help but think that, okay, it's rough. Life gets rough, but what is the alternative?
And I think just this is not going to be permanent. This is a temporary thing. Eventually, we're all going to come out of this. We know this is true. We can't say when, but that's the truth.
And if we don't come out of it, there's going to be way more stuff to worry about than a job. Just to play the negative side of things.
Of course, as you always do. So that's why you wanted to do this today.
I did. I was totally wet.
Yeah, no, I mean, it really is this is not meant to be woo woo or anything like that. But it's how you think about all this stuff impacts what you do or what you don't do. And not doing something is still a way of doing something. So if you take action on something, okay, that gives you much more, that opens up more opportunities to you. If you decide not to and just to do nothing, that is a decision. That is still an active choice that you've made. And that's also going to that's going to bring you different results.
Yeah.
So why not set yourself up, open up opportunities and possibilities for you by continuing to keep actioning active actions in the direction that you want.
And like you said, you don't have to do it alone. There are people.
No, you don't.
Again, coming back to you and I, I've told all my students, and I don't know if this is actually allowed, or I don't know if this is discouraged or whatever, but I've told my students to reach out any time during the day, over the weekend, wherever. Reach out with your questions, because I'm here to help. because it's tough times for everybody, and I want to.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just like, look, that is something I can control. I can look at an email on Sunday night and reply to it real quick. That's easy. I can take that little bit of effort, but at the same time, they also have to take the effort of like reaching out or doing something productive. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that it's tough times, but you still can control a lot of the things around you in terms of like, yourself, really yourself, and the fact that this is not you versus the world. There are people like myself, like Vicki, who are always ready to help. I'm sure you're very encouraging with your Flatiron students and stuff, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, we always are as it is, but especially now. Yeah, because we realize that this is impacting people in different ways.
This is actually a really cool question.
Yeah, I'd actually love to hear if there are any questions. But
Okay.
yeah, go ahead.
I'll tell you after,
Yeah.
but like you and Paul are totally on the same mindset. Yeah, guys, if you guys have any questions, ask me. Anything about anything that you heard or anything that we didn't touch on that you'd like us to talk about, or if you just
Is there a chat they can type them into?
yeah, I got the chat
Okay.
right here. So
Okay.
this is a cool question. In the context of the current state of employment, do you have any tips for developing meaningful professional connections? That's pretty cool.
Oh, yes. What would you say first, Jeet? I want to hear from your
I would
industry
say
perspective, but then I want to share my perspective.
I would say just give up. It's over. Just like give up. Life is
This is why we have me on this today and not just you talking.
give
at
up,
people.
bro. It's all over. Okay,
There's a
okay.
reason why I'm 50% of the conversation today.
Oh man, hey,
Okay.
you got to bring people down to earth at some point. But no, I would say, well, for the students, I would say definitely connect with your teachers because they're probably a part of the industry in some way, or have people who are connected to the industry in some way, right? That's a cool thing. And I don't really understand the question only because I don't see how physical space has affected how you can connect with people. Like I've connected with people on LinkedIn. I've connected with
Yeah.
people through Instagram. I've connected with people.
I think it's a yeah, but I think it's a fair question because it might just not be obvious to some people, or they might not be aware of some of the different opportunities. So I'd love to run through some of those right now. So definitely um, look at it as a circle and start in the middle with those in your immediate circle, family, friends, people in your school's program at SAE, JEET, other instructors, people in your career services department, which I know that you all have. Like definitely they're here to help you right now.
Yep.
Please seek them out. They're definitely there for a purpose. And they would be the best people to know what's really happening in the industry right now and different strategies you can take. So definitely recommend that you reach out to them. Along with that, yeah, I mean, there always has been virtual networking. Now it's even a bigger thing because this is kind of all that we have right now. LinkedIn, and maybe we can even do like an episode just on LinkedIn sometime, G, because that's a whole other thing, but you must be on LinkedIn. There are over 1 million groups on LinkedIn. It's kind of like a Facebook group, but it's more geared towards a specific industry or topic or whatever. LinkedIn groups are where you can identify other people in your field, in your niche. You can post content, you can ask questions, you can answer other people's questions, you could post your projects and stuff you've worked on, whatever it is. I've made many great connections through LinkedIn groups. On your LinkedIn, you can post a status update, letting people know what you're up to every single day, again, or posting links to your audio engineer portfolio or whatever it is that you have. Find people that you'd love to connect up with for an informational interview or a coffee chat. Now is a great time. Because of social isolation, this is a great time to be socializing. So reach out to people intentionally. Don't choose just anybody.
Reach
Look
out to
up
Matt
people.
Halpern.
Sure. Hey, he's cool. I know he's talked to you. Reach out to people who are in the job you know you want next and ask them to connect with you, writing a personalized LinkedIn connection request. Never do the blank one.
Oh,
or
wait,
perhaps,
can we talk about that for a second?
Okay, yeah.
Like, please do not, like this,
Ever.
this
Yeah.
agitates me. No, not even agitate. This pisses me off more than anything in the world when I get a message from either somebody who I don't know or somebody who I'm acquainted with. I mean, we're not close, but somehow acquainted with. Like, hey, I just released a video. Check it out. Would love your feedback. Or, hey, hope you're doing. Like, it's do not do the copy and pasted thing. It is frustrating on the receiver's side. It does not make
It's
me.
impersonal.
It's impersonal. Yeah. It's a little rude.
Yeah.
Personally, I think.
Yeah. 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 Definitely.
Can you actually speak on that a little bit, because I just want people to really understand this. And
yeah.
I can yell about it, but I want you to kind of articulate it.
Oh my goodness, yes. It is so important that you are taking an intentional, personalized approach to any human that you are looking to connect with, whether it's to apply for a job, to follow up on a job application, which you absolutely should be doing, to ask somebody for an informational interview or a coffee chat or what have you. It must absolutely be personalized. You must intentionally seek out the people that you want based on, find a common connection, find somebody that there's some commonality between you and them. Somebody that you would be excited to talk to, that can bring value, and that you think, again, you have some things in common, and then reach out to them with a nice, personalized, brief message, being specific, asking them if they'd have some time briefly to chat with you over virtual coffee. I get lots of blank LinkedIn connection requests. If it's blank and if I don't know who the person is, I ignore it completely, no matter how lovely their picture is. I can't tell you how much it impresses me when somebody writes me a message that just tells me a little bit about them, what we have in common, why they're looking to connect. Huge difference. I actually really appreciate that. It gives me so much more of a positive impression on that person. And then I'm happy to add them to my network.
Yep.
So always, always, always seek out specifically personable outreach. Why you want to connect, make the ask, always have an ask.
Yeah.
And again, I just want to add to that, again, the career services department at SAE, I'm sure they're great at this stuff. So leverage them, or whomever.
Or Rowan, or engine room,
or Rowan, or other people near to you that are really good at these types of communications.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, just basically make sure that you're providing some sort of value to the other person. Like, give them a reason to, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but give them a reason to want to actually take a second of their time to give to you.
That's especially critical in a cover letter or a follow-up on a job application.
Mm-hmm. But in terms of just networking, in terms of just
I mean, you definitely do, but sometimes there are limitations. Like, there are limitations as to how many characters you can have in a LinkedIn connection request. It is not that many at all. Mm-hmm. You need to keep it to a couple sentences at most. But you need to make it direct, personal, and just appealing to them in some way. So intrigue them, wanting to have a conversation with you. Find that commonality. That's going to make them so much more interested in wanting to connect with you. And they're going to see that you put in the effort and that you're reaching out to them. And like you said, G, not just like 50,000 other people like, hey, can you check out blah, 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 blah. And I just want to say, this is a pet peeve of mine as a longstanding career development professional. Please do not ever use the salutation, hey, in any type of professional outreach or communication, especially if you don't know them. And this is especially if this is the first time you're reaching out to them. That is very informal and not cool.
That's so funny you say that, even though I will somewhat disagree for the music industry side of things, but the first
especially for a potential employer, can't not at all.
Right. The first internship I ever had was at MusicWorks on the Upper West Side. And the first thing, Chris LeBurge, who's the owner and like really awesome guy, and Nina Kreese, who's the engineer, fantastic engineer. The first thing he told to me when I came in for the interview, or like somewhere in the middle of the interview, he said, just a heads up, when you reach out to somebody that you don't know, don't start with the word hey. Like, that's exactly what he said. He said you could say hi, you can say greetings, or something a little more professional. Now, I don't know how much I took that advice, but I definitely try to be more conscientious of it. So I thought this was interesting. Luis has a question. Do you guys think right now, as an artist, it's important to stay present on social media, or should we be more focused into progressing skills and creating projects for when this is over? I actually already know what I want to say about this. If you want to,
I just want to finish answering the last question that came in because I'm not
sure,
sure that we did
sure,
that.
sure.
LinkedIn, LinkedIn connection requests, ask people for coffee chats or informational interviews, post status updates, join LinkedIn groups, interact with people and network there. Facebook,
Mm,
Twitter, do not downplay Twitter. I'm telling you, a lot of people don't look to Twitter as like a place to network. Please network there. There are tons of professionals there. There are tons of artists there. There are just that is a that's a it's social media. So sometimes it's a way to kind of get in front of and be able to engage with somebody who otherwise you might not have been able to engage with on other platforms.
right.
I know there's many other platforms out there that we probably even haven't touched on, G, but and there's lots of virtual meetups going on right now. If any of you belong to any music industry associations or professional organizations, they may have virtual networking things going on right now. So really
Right.
seek out. There really are a ton of opportunities to just continue to grow your network. Please keep doing that.
That's true, actually. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. You can still have virtual coffee with people. You can still ask people about their stories. Like, you could reach out to an artist that you admire,
Absolutely.
and like just I'm well, actually, just to say a really interesting point. Like, artists might be struggling right now without a tour scene. So maybe they are looking to make a little extra money on the side doing virtual clinics or virtual coffee sessions. And it will be totally worth it.
Or any type of non-technical side job right now just for financial health reasons, and that's totally okay. And if you need to
Exactly.
do that, more power to you. You can definitely leverage all the strategies that we've talked about today.
Yep, yeah, you can still reach out to, like, again, I reached out to this idol of mine basically cold turkey, but you helped. I remember you.
Who told him to reach out to him?
I
Who
think
told you to reach out to him? There are
I
two people in this webinar. Okay, anyway, and did he reply? Yes. And have you been able to meet with him several times since? Yes. Anyway, I want to let's get to that person's question. Sorry, the
okay.
last question that was just
Basically,
asked.
Luis is asking, if you're an
Hey,
artist,
Louise.
right
Saying hi, Louise.
now,
Yeah.
do you practice your skills and work on like an album or something, or do you make content for social media? Now, I personally think you should just be doing both. I think both of
Agree.
those things are completely correct. Now is a great time to be honing your skills because you have all this extra time. It's a great time to be putting together pieces of art. You can plan a really dope strategy for like when quarantine is over. You can have like this whole tour centered around, I don't know, like like breaking free of quarantine, or like, I don't know, something less cheesier than that. But it's a great time to be strategizing afterwards, but it's also a great time for social media because everybody's kind of looking
On
for
it. People
content.
are on it right now.
Yeah, people are
Um,
on it right now. They're bored. They want to do something. I'm sure there's plenty of Netflix and other things like that. But I actually found some of my students doing things right now, like a student, uh, what's his name? Nils. Nils. I can't remember his name, but it's something like Nils. Um, but yeah, no, now's a great time to do both, Luis. I would say like now's a great time to put out some content. Maybe, oh my God, it'd be even cooler. Here's an idea for you. What if you had a really cool like release party with all these cool bands for when quarantine is over? You could then document the process of every single band working towards writing new material for it, working towards how to coordinate it, how to promote it. You could literally document that whole process. So by the time quarantine is over, like it, you might have built enough hype to actually bring people there. Something. I don't know. Be creative.
I agree. Definitely now is an opportunity to be doing both. And I just want to share something. I want to invite anybody here who's on this webinar today to connect with me on LinkedIn because recently, and I think I shared this with you, Jeet,
Mm.
I shared recently on my LinkedIn feed a video that someone else had shared with me, and it's actually about like the current state of the music industry. Where is it going? And they were sharing some pretty interesting things in there about what artists are doing at this time to navigate through this interesting time and still be able to market and brand themselves. And there were some marketing and branding folks in the music industry in that video, and they were really talking about specific, unique ways that record labels are marketing their bands right now and stuff like that. And I think it's great industry knowledge to have, and it can definitely be helpful to any of you that are actively still looking to release material. So connect with me on LinkedIn. Please send a personalized connection request.
Yeah, dude.
So I know that you saw me on this today, because I'll definitely accept your request if you send me a personalized note.
Otherwise, she's not going to know who you are.
Yeah, I'm not going to reply. But there is in my feed, I think it was about a week ago, just scroll down in my feed, and there was this great video that someone had shared that I reshared about like the current state of music. And just for this artist, somebody was saying that in that video, they were saying that some artists are now playing virtual concerts on venues, Instagram channels. So I just want to throw that out there to you, Louise, as one potential approach you could take. But yeah, people are on social media. Brainstorm.
What's the
Brainstorm
name of this thing? I'm looking for it.
I don't remember, but if people connect with me on LinkedIn, it's in my feed from about a week ago.
Got it. Yeah, so Louise, there are still things that you like. Again, basically, this is why I wanted to have Vicki on the first episode, because a lot of this comes down to just like having your mindset correct, thinking about the opportunities, trying to take full control of what you can control, and not sweating the thing that, like all the stuff that we touched on. I think a lot of the stuff starts from here, and anyway, that's why I wanted to have you on first. So
yeah,
Louise,
totally.
check it out. There's definitely plenty of things that you can be doing. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to touch on. I
just wanted to add to Louise's question so we can be really helpful.
Sure.
Is in addition, take the opportunity of all these social platforms right now, and if you haven't done so already, connect with other bands or artists in your genre, similar genres, especially locally in your community. Hook up together, do things together, put on virtual events together. It's just going to get greater promotion and awareness. So you have tons of opportunities at this time.
That's a great segue into something that I wanted to say, which is a little lead up to the series itself, which is I think a lot of people are under this misconception that like the industry works like, okay, there's this dude up here and I'm down here and he's going to take me all the way to the top. And while that does happen from time to time, and there are people and there are artists who get turned on and they become the next big thing, that doesn't happen all the time, and it's not like a practical way to think about the industry, right? The best way to think about it is that you are here, you have peers, you have people who are ready to help you, and you guys are basically working together to help
each other
in this industry, because helping each other. You definitely need each other. So So take full advantage of that.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, all around, focusing on what's in your control, growth mindset. The industry is 180 degrees different than what it was in the year, let's say, I'm going back in time here, everybody. But like, I don't know if any of you were around when, before MP3s and everything, the music industry was significantly different. Mm-hmm. Artists got released and marketed in a significantly different way than what it's happening right now with MP3s and all these new technology. It has enabled artists to take control in their own hands, put out their own records. Artists could never, ever do this before 20, 30 years ago. It wasn't even feasible. Somebody wouldn't even think that this was ever possible. The industry has completely shifted in many different ways. And I think it's actually just like a fascinating thing to read about, like what's happened in the past few decades. Make sure that you all know about this. You've read up on this. This is really critical because you definitely want to understand what's happening right now so you can take advantage of those things. And you can use your creativity in different ways, not just in how you create music and art, but creative thinking, how you're approaching everything we've been talking about, connecting with other people in your community, how you're marketing and putting yourself out there, how you're distributing your material, right? This is creative thinking. And use the information from the industry's past there are still many things that work really well that you can learn from. So I think it's really important for people here to really understand the journey and the history that the music industry has taken, especially over the last few decades.
Totally agree. And to that point, I'll say that, um, yeah, in terms of just helping each other out, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to make this thing, is because, um, I've had a lot of people help me out, like a lot, and I've had a lot of people come up with me, and you know, next time, I think June 6th, I'm gonna do episode 2 of this with my boy Lee. I guess his producer name is Preem or Supreme, but I always call him Lee because I can't come to call him a producer name. I just know him as Lee. Fantastic engineer. He has worked with Dave East, Casanova, Tory Lanez, G Unit, you name it. He's went on to start his own studio, got his own business going. It's very inspiring. I can't wait to sit down and talk to him about how he came up, because that's kind of what it's about, just basically helping each other. And to that, I will also say a huge thank you to Vicki Aubin, because I definitely would not be here if you hadn't put up with my put up with everything. Like, seriously, you've definitely played a huge role in changing my mindset about things. You played a huge role in me understanding the importance of presenting yourself in terms of, like, not just to an employer, but to anybody. And I understand I am not there yet. I still have some kinks and stuff to work out. I get it. It's a work in progress. I get it. But you really enabled me to, like, maximize a lot of my potential, and for that I will be forever grateful. So thank you so much. I hope you guys got a lot out of this. For all of you who did watch, if you do want to connect with either of us, Vicki Aubin is on LinkedIn. She is a career coach at Flatiron. That's the best way to get in touch with her. Again, personal message. Make sure you tell her that either you're a student of mine, or you know me, or you watched the webinar, or something that will make her, because she probably gets tons of requests over the
so please make sure you personalize your connection request and just let me know, hey Vicki, I was on Jeet's webinar today. Really love to connect with you, or whatever. Like, you're happy to share whatever you want to share, but definitely let me know that you were here today, and I'll absolutely accept your request.
Exactly.
And can I make a secondary ask? Sure. I think it would be really awesome, wherever, I'm not quite sure where all the participants here today kind of heard about this, but I think it'd be awesome somewhere for them to be able to share publicly, like, what was kind of like one key takeaway that they're getting from this today, that they're walking away with, that really resonated with them, whether that's on your LinkedIn or on your Facebook. I'm not sure where that spot is, but I would actually love to know, right? I would love to know what you all walked away with today. I don't know if you want to ask them to put it in the chat now or elsewhere, but I would really love to know what you came away from this today with.
Students, my attitude about this kind of thing, but since Vicki wants to know, do message her, let her know, post it if you need to, or just message her, or if you don't want to, don't. But if there is something that resonated with you, let her know.
Let either of us know. Yeah, we would love to know.
I don't know if I care that much, but
yes, you do.
Anyways,
Jeet cares.
I really don't.
Jeet thinks he's too cool to care, but he cares much more than all of you will ever realize, and I'm just gonna end with that.
All right. Well, to that effect, Vicki Aubin, thank you so much. I'm also on LinkedIn, but if you want to see the really fun stuff, my Instagram is JSPX500. And yeah, I thank you for joining me, Vicki. I guess I'll talk to you in a bit. Right?
Absolutely. Thank you, G. And thanks to everybody for being here and for your awesome questions and for spending your time with us today. And wishing you all the best. Let us know if we can be helpful to you in any other way. Bye, everybody.